Today I have a challenge build that comes to us from Stolon the Noble. He asked us to do some sort of pirate Djinni Genie Warlock build that was viable. Alright, let's do this. If you're a big fan of D&D builds or just D&D in general, go ahead and scroll down, show us some support by hitting that subscribe button, and help us grow. But with that out of the way, let's get into the build. So how are we going to do this build? Well, we want to be a pirate, and we want to be the Djinn. The Djinn is the air-based Genie Warlock, and it actually allows us to do some pretty interesting things once we start mixing it with more of our pirate flavor, which we're going to grab from Swashbuckler. So what it's going to look like is it's going to be 3 levels into Swashbuckler Rogue, 7 levels into Genie Warlock, and from there we have some options which we'll discuss once we get there. What we're really looking to do here is to mix the swashbuckling hit and run playstyle with the Djinni's wind magic, and I think there's a lot of fun things that we can pull off from there. But let's begin with our lineage. Well, I want to keep in that piratey wind genie theme, and so I'm going to be going Air Genasi. Air Genasi also helps our hit and run playstyle because it gives us 35 feet of movement speed, which makes it so we have that extra distance to come in and out of combat. Additionally, it's going to also give us some awesome spells that we can use in and out of combat to do some amazing things. My favorite of which is actually Featherfall, because Featherfall is going to allow us to do cool stunts. Every now and again it's going to come in handy just to save teammates, and we are going to eventually be flying quite often ourselves, so Featherfall can come in clutch to save us. But my favorite thing to do with Featherfall is actually to initiate combats with it, to take the high ground, see someone that we want to fight on the low ground, and then you just jump off and cast it on the way down, and it creates these cool stunt man moments. That's my favorite part about it. Levitate is also a fantastic just target someone and take them out of the combat spell, and we're going to enjoy having it for those moments that it really shines. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Let's talk about our stats. So we're going to be Dexterity primary, Charisma secondary, and Constitution tertiary. So because Charisma is our secondary, we need to take into consideration that our Warlock spells aren't going to be the most efficient. Choosing the ones that don't require Charisma to be effective are going to be the best. Now with our stats out of the way, let's jump into the level by level breakdown. Alright, starting out at level 1, we're going to be a normal rogue. Now we don't even have cunning action yet, so a ranged weapon is just better than a melee weapon for rogues at this level. That can change at level 2 because we do get cunning action and we can use our bonus action to come in and out of combat, but I'm still probably just going to go the ranged option because we took a lower constitution than normal rogues, so we're a bit more squishy. Now all of this changes once we get to level 3 and we get Swashbuckler Rogue. This allows us to take the dash action every single turn with our bonus action, and that way we can go in, attack, and get out. Like all Swashbucklers, we really want to be dual wielding. That way we can go in, make an attack, maybe we miss, well we can attack again, get the sneak attack, and still retreat. Dual wielding is just the way to go for Swashbucklers. We also get to add our dexterity and our charisma to our initiative, so we're going to be going first very often. Right now that's just good, later that becomes fantastic, and that's because we're going to be going into Warlock and picking up spells, and spells are better the earlier you cast them. If you cast a fight winning spell, you have a whole turn before everyone else where that fight winning spell is in effect, and we want to take advantage of that with this combo. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go into our 4th level, or Warlock level 1. Here we're going to be picking up the Genie Warlock, and we're going to be going into the Djinn form. The first spell we get by being a Djinn is Thunderwave. Thunderwave is okay, it's not something I'm going to be super excited about, especially at level 4, so I probably won't be casting it that often. Instead, we have Armor of Agathis and we have Hex. Hex being a little bit better because sometimes we're going to be using a dual wielding attack, although what we're doing is really searching for a sneak attack. If we get it, we probably want to use the dash action, so it's not like we're a Hex specialist. But between Armor of Agathis and Hex, we'll always have something to do with our spells in combat. Level 2 brings Invocations, and there's a lot of things we can do here. There's a lot of flexibility here. Just keep in mind, whatever you take next level, you're going to be taking Pact to the Blade and taking the improved Pact weapon, pretty dang likely. Whatever we take, just know you're going to be getting rid of one of them. I actually really like Misty Visions with this setup. I feel like this character is kind of that mix of kind of a tricky spellcaster, and I think Misty Visions really helps us with that flavor and can set up a lot of cool situations where we're creating a rolling mist that we can then sprint out of and go stab someone. And yeah, overall, I just think Misty Visions is a really underrated invocation. I actually think it's a ton of power for just one invocation. Additionally, we can do something like False Life to increase our tankiness, but whatever we do, again, next level, Pact of the Blade, Improved Pact Weapon. Improved Pact Weapon is going to increase our likelihood to hit, the damage we do. It's also going to allow us to be a dual-wielding spellcaster. We don't need to do any tricky things with our hands to drop a sword to cast a spell. We just have our 2 swords, and one of them counts as a spellcasting focus. We also get our 2nd level spells at this level, and the one that really shines to me here is Gust of Wind. Normally, a spell that doesn't really shine that much, I think can really shine with the Swashbuckler package. Why? Well, Swashbucklers get to take the dash action basically all the time, meaning we basically have 70 feet of movement every single turn. What we can do is we can go in there, schmack someone, get our damage off, and then retreat with Gust of Wind. That way, if they want to come towards us, they have to use twice the amount of movement, so they're going through difficult terrain. So they're likely to have like 15 feet of movement, where we have 70. And even considering half that where we're moving in and out, that's still 35. So it can be really difficult for anyone to get near us. But that's not all it does. It can also disperse vapors, situationally, or we can push people into traps if they fail the saving throw, so we can position our enemies the way we want, or we can use it to push our teammates forward. If we have a specific teammate who needs to be in a specific position, we can help them get there. There's just a ton that we can do with our forced movement to help our teammates be where they need to be with Gust of Wind, and I think that's an underrated aspect of the spell. We can't be pressured by anyone in melee, really, and that's really cool, that power level. That's going to leave us exposed to ranged options, and that's where our Djinni 3rd level spell comes into play, Wind Wall. Completely situational, but the one that I expect to come up most often is that it completely blocks projectiles, so it's a hard counter to ranged combatants, who are one of our few weaknesses. Melee combatants really can't even approach us. Ranged combatants, we now have Wind Wall, so that leaves basically just spellcasters as people who are scary to this, and they can be. But Wind Wall's not all we get at 5th level. We're also going to get the Thirsting Blade, which allows us to basically have extra attacks, so now we have 2 attacks with a potential bonus action attack. Just makes our more martial side shine brighter. Level 6 of Warlock, or our level 9, is another big level because we're going to get the ability to fly, and it's really consistent. It's proficiency bonus times a day, and that gives you 10 minutes of flying. That's a lot of fly time, especially when you just consider it in combats. And what that flying speed is going to do is just allow us to do what we were doing better. Now our positioning can be more intricate, now getting to us can be more difficult. We don't even really have to worry about our Gust of Wind to keep melee combatants away from us now, but we can still use it to keep melee combatants away from our allies, or to continue moving our allies around, whatever we'd like. Level 7 comes 4th level spells, and these I consider our biggest counters to casters. Notably, Greater Invisibility. Greater Invisibility makes it so we cannot be targeted by someone who needs to see us to cast a spell or choose a target, and we can just fly in there, get our sneak attack off, and just kind of be assassins to these wizards who are generally more squishy and won't see our attacks coming. But just as a rule of thumb, being Greater Invisibility is fantastic on a Swashbuckler because we're getting advantage to get those sneak attacks off even more consistently, and we're going to get crits more often, which are more effective with rogues. And then we have the defenses of always being attacked at disadvantage if they even know where we're at, and not being able to be targeted. It's just really powerful. Combining Greater Invisibility with high damage output and high mobility is a recipe for success. Now, I haven't touched on all the Warlock spells we can take. There's a ton. You can be doing summons, you can be doing mass control like Fear or Hypnotic Pattern. There's just a bunch you can do, and so you can really mold this the way you want. What I was really here for is mixing the Wind Magic, which is a really underused sub-magic type, with Swashbuckling, which those are the 2 archetypes that really go with pirates. You have the Swashbuckler archetype and then the Wind Magic archetype, like Storm Sorcerer, for example. So you can mix those 2 together and you can get some really cool piratey vibes. You take something like Expertise in Acrobatics and then you mix in Featherfall, and I imagine this character on a ship where they can cut the rope and go swinging up to the top of the mast, very Assassin's Creed Black Flag style, and then jump off and use Featherfall and go land on people and attack them from behind. The 3-dimensional mobility is something I think could be really exciting with this build. Okay, now once we get to this level, we have a branching paths moment. If we're going to level 20, it'd probably make more sense to go into Warlock for the rest. It'd make us less of a martial and more of a spellcaster, but we're eventually going to be getting Wish, and Wish is crazy powerful. So yes, if we're going to level 20, the stronger side is going to be the Warlock side. However, for me and for the flavor of the build, I think I see it more as a martial. So from level 11 and onward, I'll just be going back into Rogue. This is mostly to increase our sneak attack damage, but it's also going to allow us to get all the normal Rogue things that allow us to be more effective as a Rogue, namely skills in and out of combat and uncanny dodge to increase our tankiness. Again, this isn't the tankiest build inherently, so we have to have alternative defenses, mainly based off our hit and run. I think we'd be okay. The main weakness of this build is definitely going to be its wisdom saves throughout, so taking spells that really hurt casters can be a great option. So think outside the box as you're going through these levels and include some spells that hurt spellcasters specifically. But that's just what I would do with this build. What would you guys do with this build? Let me know in the comments down below. Additionally, if you have any challenges for us, leave them down in the comments down below, and while you're down there, why don't you hit that subscribe button and help the channel grow. But with that, my friends, I hope you have yourselves an incredible day, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you then.